Hello, everyone. Good to see you, my friends. I'm so glad to be here tonight. I'm so happy to see some great friends popping in. It is Clobberin time indeed. It is Monday night Mark C. Comics Talk. And a big shout out and a big thank you to my good buddy T-Shirt Historian, his channel. He has a great show going on there. I was just over there with him, and I was proud to be there with an amazing group of guests and a great guest that he had. So I just I would have loved to have hung out longer, but I had this one scheduled, and I always have my Monday night schedule to keep, and he understands that. But big shout out to T-Shirt. And hey, look, if any of you get a chance, I'll get a link in there, my thing later. But here's of course a link if you get a chance later. And I'll put the link up later as well. Go and please subscribe to his channel. He's just getting started out, and he's a cool dude and a good new friend, and I appreciate him very much. So I put a link to his channel if you can throw him a sub out there if you get a chance. And he's doing it. Like I say, he does cool stuff, and he's again always has good guests, great guests. So he's just getting started out there, and he could use all the subs support he can get. So I appreciate him. So anyway, let's see here. And again, I was honored to be there. Welcome, everybody. Monday Night Mark C. And, of course, a big shout-out to everybody who was here Saturday night. What a fantastic time. Both my wonderful first officer, Raquel, and I, and, of course, I hope you had in our ongoing mission of Saturday nights, which is, of course, to explore strange, old, but great Star Trek, to review all of Star Trek 05 to, excuse me, go back. If we go backwards, I guess, 66 through 05, that's what we're doing. That is our mission. We're reviewing all of real Star Trek. And we have one more episode to go for Star Trek, the animated series. And again, I had just a wonderful time. Just a wonderful time. Let me put the word out there that I'm out there, that we're going live now, folks. And also, a fantastic time that I had talking live to all you people, and my good friends. Well, hanging with the Global Geek Gang on Thursday. Then last Wednesday, of course, going live open talk. And then, of course, last Monday, on Monday Night Mark C. Comics Talk, hanging out with my fantastic retro blasting pal Michael French, and we were ranking the Marvel movies, and that was it was fantastic. Just what a great time it was, and you all made it such. It was just as big as it gets for me, as far as just what a great crowd we had and stuff. So I want to thank you all for being here for that, and thank Michael again for that one. So it's always kind of when I'm doing this topic, or when I have a topic that I'm real excited. I am excited about this one. It's, not going to be brain surgery. We're just going to basically run down memory lane a little bit. But when I get excited about a topic that I'm doing, and I hope you're all hearing me okay, because I never know, do I? I get really, really, after I finish a show like this or any other show, I always get like, oh man, it's over now. What am I going to do? Now I got to think of another topic. So I'm trying to get some other topics lined up. Before I talk about that a little bit, I'm going to say some hellos. Of course, Stephen Ernest put something up like a couple of days ago saying, so I hope you're here, Stephen Ernest. Welcome. Good to see you. The great Steve Mitchum is here. Great pal. Good to see you, bro, as always. Snorta Poopas Cuber, what's up, my friend? The great Phantom Outsider. Hey. The great J-Man is here. What's up, J-Man? Hey, buddy. Always a pleasure. Of course, there's a link to his and many, many other fine channels here of great friends in my description below. J-Man has a great channel where he's I consider him a kindred spirit, and that we both like to just kind of hang out and talk comics and other geek stuff and things like that. So, and he has a lot of fun doing it. That's what we're here for. The great Dave Bob. What's up, buddy? The extraordinary Pat S. What's up, my brother? Darth Haster, what's up, bud? Good to see you, man. Always a pleasure. See who else has popped in. No one else yet. But I appreciate you all for stopping in here. Where are we? Yes, M indeed. I should put an M in there as well, shouldn't I? For the great Mark C. Oops, wrong one. There we go. Our great pal. And so, yeah, every time because I just been kind of lucking out a little bit in terms of a topic that I really get excited about. Because if I'm not excited about the topic, I'm probably not going to be doing it. That's why I do now 4. I've got Monday night because I want to devote that to something comics related. And I do have some things lined up for that. Obviously, Saturday night is Star Trek. So when you know what you're going to be talking about, it's great to have something to focus. It helps you. Global Geek Gang, usually just kind of us hanging out, free for all, that kind of stuff. Animation's always on the table. Steve mentioned we're always good. I got all kind. In fact, I've got some shows planned. Script Doctor and I pretty soon, in the not too distant future, we'll be reviewing Batman the Animated Series, for example. Wednesday night I keep wide open where I can just do an open geek thing where I talk back and forth with you, my good friends, and once in a while I might do a random topic there, get someone to join me to do a topic. That's what Wednesday is wide open for. And of course, Thursday again, like I said, but with the Global Geek Gang, it's kind of just freewheeling. But sometimes we will have a panel discussion or a round table. For example, if probably not this week. Maybe either the next or the next week, we're going to start in one of our many celebrations of my beloved Fantastic Four, because it is, of course, the 60th anniversary of the Fantastic Four, and we're going to be celebrating it here on Clobberin Times all year round. Because we all know Marvel Comics won't do it. Snort. The old snort of poopus. But yeah, how about books? What about books, Darth Astor? Yeah, I love comic books, of course, but I also love books and different science fiction books and such. So, if we come up with a topic that has to do with books, literature, it could certainly happen. Absolutely. No question about it. And so, every time I get done with a topic, usually I get stressed. So these ideas for this Monday night show pop in sometimes only a couple of days in advance. Not always, but sometimes. And so I get a little stressed. I'm like, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? And then when I get one, I go, oh man, I get excited about it. That was a last minute thing, the ranking the Marvel movies. And I thought, oh, no, I'm going to probably have to just do it by myself. But then I thought, let me ask my great buddy Michael. Greetings, the great Stone Loki, who also gave us our great intro, man. Good to see you, brother. So I'm always stressed for a topic after I finish doing one that I'm excited about. So, again, last week with Michael Retro Blasting, that was my biggest show I ever did. Not that I care. I look at that kind of thing, but as far as ratings and views and all that stuff. It also got me some of my first hate mail because, he gets that. Just kidding. Well, he does, Michael, but he knows he does. On a completely unrelated thing. And we had some crazy stuff going on in the chat last week because he brings a big crowd. He's a big channel. He's a great friend, but he's also been around for a long time, and his channel's huge. And he brings in people crazy sometimes that come after him, and some weird stuff happened in the chat last week. But that's the way it is. But after every time it just kind of popped in there, and then when it was pretty short notice, and it was so great of him to do it on short notice like that, and I just ended up, like I always do when I'm talking to Michael, having an absolute blast. It was just a retro blast, you could say. Just loved every second of it. It was just amazing, and I appreciate him for that. And then when it was over, like it is almost every time I finish a topic, when I don't have one lined up for the following comic book Monday, I was like, uh-oh, what am I going to do now? And sometimes it takes me 3, 4, 5 days to come up with something. Sometimes it doesn't, but sometimes it does. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to talk about? So this is one I wanted to do for a long time, the one I'm going to do tonight. I own, but the one I was going to do that I decided is going to take too much work and research to do is one I've pushed back tentatively either to next Monday night or the one after. I think next Monday night I'm going to try to do, we'll see, the top 25 all-time, my top 25 all-time favorite comic book stories. I haven't done that in almost forever, and I only did a top 10er one time about 10, 12 years ago, whatever, on the old show. So that's going to be tough to do because I realize it's going to take, picking 25 is going to be a lot tougher than picking just 10. But there needs to be I want to make it a broader reach than just 10. So, and again, I'll probably have to wing that one on my own because I knew Michael was interested in the Marvel films. And a lot of people are, obviously, because a lot of people showed up. But I don't know how many people, or someone who've read comics long enough to be able to come up with their favorite stories list or whatever. But, we'll see. Just like this topic tonight, I didn't really know anyone who would want to, obviously, not many people would even be interested in this topic, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because I've always wanted to do it. And, what the hell. And so tonight's topic, of course, is... does anyone remember when there was a thriving comic book industry? I'm wondering if anyone even remembers that. J-Man. Yeah, let's see this. I'm going to do it, though, man. I can do it. There'll only be favorite. There won't be, remember, the word favorite. So it'll be a personal list. I can't, no one. I'm not a big believer in making a list that speaks for anyone but yourself. Top 10 favorite movies or top 10 favorite this or episodes of that. So, but I can do it. So, but yes, remember when there was a thriving comic book industry, there was actually a comic book journalism industry. There were actually, in addition to your weekly, stash of comics that you got, they had different publications that you could read to read up about not only what's coming, like trade journals, basically, or what's going on behind the scenes, all the inside baseball of comic books and of the comic book industry. And I love them. But my story, and I've kind of talked about this for a little while. In the early 80s, before I, went to help start the first comic shop down here anyway, which was called Southland Comics. Before that, I started the guy that I was, that became my distributor, when I got my first order form to actually order from a distributor, instead of just relying on the spinner racks at the store or the racks at the drugstore, what have you. I remember first seeing. I don't know why I'm remembering it because this is 1980, 81. So I don't know why I'm remembering it. I was a teenager, I was 15, 16 years or whatever it was, but and I'm seeing this, and I'm just seeing this order form, and I'm staring at it. And on this order form, I'm seeing all the mainstream comics, but I'm seeing some other ones too, some titles I don't even recognize. Some of them were quote unquote independent titles. Remember, we didn't have a comic shop. Didn't know what a comic book store was. I maybe read it. I didn't even know if such a thing existed. In other words, a store that only sells comic books. Yeah, right. Now, they did exist, by the way. Just not where I am. I'm down in the deep south in Louisiana. So they existed, sure. Far before 1980. They had them all over, but only in big cities. Usually they had people that might sell comics, usually back issues, in fact, in flea markets, or some people call them swap meets, whatever you want to call them. Not much older than you, Phantom Outsider. Not much older, but I'm much older than a lot of people, but apparently not much older than you, buddy. So I see this thing called, on the order form, I see this thing called, I don't know what it is. It's called the Comics Journal. Let's see. Hang on a second here. Oh, there we go. The Comics Journal. This is the first. And so I was like, what is a comics journal? What does that mean? Remember, the extent of my comic book purchasing acumen was was the spinner rack, or the K&B drugstore rack, and the Eckerd drugs store rack, things like that. Now, the spinner rack had less to offer, a little less versatility. At least the racks at the drugstore, you could see the Warren magazines and the Treasury editions, and the Warren magazines as in creepy and eerie, and you can see Famous Monsters there, and Rook, and just things like that, and of course the Marvel black and white mags and what have you. Now I had seen ads for I had seen ads for a while for FOOM, Friends of Old Marvel, and Amazing World of DC Comics. We'll talk about those a little bit. But I really just didn't understand. I didn't understand the concept, just as I didn't think there was any such thing as a comic book store. I didn't think there was anything really such thing as a magazine about comics. This was the first issue I got. Number 61, I believe it is. Great Gil Kane cover with John Carter. I mean, I've been buying the John Carter comic, and I was mesmerized by this thing. I still have all my old comics journal. I was mesmerized by this thing. Because it's difficult to explain. This one, I don't know. They're pretty highfalutin. They're snobby. They're elitist. The Comics Journal is the ultimate in the elitist of the comics press at that time and for all time, probably. As you can see, there are mentions of things I don't even know what the hell they're talking about. New graphic novels by Wrights and Adams Golden. Roy Thomas doesn't pull any punches in an exclusive interview. Gil Kane cover. I just could not get enough of this magazine. A few years later, as you know, or some of you may know, of course, I kept buying it. By the way, I even backtracked and got a back issue of it. This one here, number 57. And this issue, of course, again, I was a big John Byrne fan at the time, and that's, of course, a little shout out to our great buddy Mark C. Not Mark. Of course, I hope Mark D with the C is here somewhere. But anyway, Mark C. was a big John Byrne fan, as you all know. So I get this issue. He had a couple back issues there, my friend, when I started working with him to get the comic shop started. And I got this one, and again, I'm reading the interview with Byrne. This Byrne interview is huge. And see, this one here has a lot of the fallout over the John Byrne interview. At the time, I was a big Byrne fan. D. Bud Martin, what's up, buddy? Good to see you. I was a big Byrne fan, and if you read this backlash over what Byrne said, you really want to read the Byrne interview, because Byrne, well, he said some things that would get him canceled today. Let me just put it. In fact, if anyone ever finds out, you know how they dig up old tweets? John Byrne's really not doing much in the industry right now, but if anyone ever finds out what he said in the interview in this comics journal right here, he'll be canceled. I'm not going to put it this way. I'm not going to talk about what he said in there, because I'd be canceled, I guess. I don't know. I don't still get Pattis. I don't get Comics Journal anymore. They don't put it out. I don't think they put a physical copy out now, but they do. I think they do online and stuff like most people. And a little bit later, I'll tell you the ones I do still get that are still being made. Hey, Just Joe, bro, what's up? Jobber, good to see you, brother. Purple Valkyrie, the beautiful Purple Valkyrie's here. Great to see you, my friend. So see, this issue of the Comics Journal was special to me because I got it as a back issue after I got that other one I told you about. And if you look at this at the bottom, it says the uproar over Harlan Ellison. In the letters page in this, again, these magazines were so fascinating to me as someone who loved comics. I couldn't believe I'm reading magazines about comics that are telling me things other than just me picking up a comic book and reading it. My idiotic little 16-year-old brain, whatever it was, didn't understand it, but it was fascinating. In other words, the way you would read other trade journals for other types of what other types of forms of entertainment or what have you. It had all. I mean, I was learning so. This is where I learned so much about comic book history and about the creators, the artists, and the writers, and things like that. And Harlan Ellison barely even did any comics, but they interviewed him. Incidentally, and this issue had the backlash of his interview from a few issues earlier. And this issue right here, number 53, this is 53. That's issue 57. They were still complaining. This is the interview that I'll go into a little bit later. This is the issue. It took me about 20 years to find this one. I went everywhere trying to find it because you could, no eBay, no internet back then, and that kind of stuff. It took forever for me to find this one, and I'll go more in the Comics Journal later. But I'm just saying. So this is I'm just giving you a little bit background of my beginnings with this kind of stuff. Comics Journal was the first one I read, and this interview, holy shit. So this is he pissed off Michael Fleischer, pissed off Jim Shooter, pissed off everybody, and this started a lawsuit that dragged its ass through the 80s. It was one of the biggest stories in the comics the comics industry at the time. But I'll go back to some of that later. First, we'll take a little bit of a visual tour of some of the earlier of the. See, by the way, fanzine's not the proper term. Some people just say fanzine. They're not really fanzines, though. Not really, because there were fanzines was something that implies that fans created them, and yes, there were a lot of they go back as early as some say as back as early as the 30s, which is ridiculous. There weren't very many comic books back then, but there were comics that talked about it. But you had in the 60s some fanzines that eventually made it around. They had you could buy them, but they really weren't distributed like as something like Comics Journal basically was, and things like that. But you did have things like Alter Ego by Jerry Bales, who also started the Comic Reader, Rocket Blast Comics Collector. I've got some of those collections of some of those. Squatron, and some of those actually were distributed by comics distributors, of course, but not many of them. Not until let me see here. Let's see here. Yeah, here we go. And I'm gonna have to do it the old-fashioned way because I couldn't get. It's tough to find pictures of some of these things. This is not the first one, by the way, by any stretch, everyone. It's just one of the ones that I knew about because there's some that were so obscure. There were a lot of fanzines, but I'm not talking fanzines. I'm talking about products that were, reporting on comics. And this is one that was before my time, but I've been able to go back and backtrack and get a few issues here and there by the great Jim Steranko. This was a newspaper type format book here, publication here. Let me get there. And I don't know if any of you remember this one. I have a few, but they were before my time. As I said, my first was Comics Journal. But let's see here. Yeah. So, does anyone remember Comic Scene by Jim Steranko? I've since been able to go back and buy some of these. I'd love to get them all. And this was kind of a newspaper print format, similar to the Comics Buyer's Guide later. That's 1973. That's comics journalism, folks. It's just some of them were distributed to comic shops and things like that. I mean, just distribution back then of comic books was very different, of course. Let's see here. Look at those covers. I mean, wow, you had Jim Steranko stuff. Man. Like I said, I have some of these. They're not all that easy to find. But let's see here. But this is probably one of the early. I mean, this is one of the earliest ones I think anyway. Of course, there were many others, but as I'm talking, I'm not conflating fanzines. Now, of course, later for those, this mag it developed into. This one developed into Jim Steranko's Media Scene Preview, then later just became Preview Magazine, and he totally morphed it into something that was just about comics that had very little to do with comics, and he just started reporting on, film and pop entertainment, similar to like a Starlog type thing, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, what are you going to do? But this was a mag that I really loved. Now, but there's some other ones that are really obscure from back then that, again, they were before my time. But, you go to bargain bins and things like that. And I would anytime I would find an old mag like that was similar to Comics Journal and others, I'd grab it if I could. And so I still have a lot of these. The Comic Reader by Jerry Bales. I mean, this is, this is kind of a small one. It was kind of more like a fanzine. And there was Comics Feature. Let's see here. A bit more professional than Comic Reader in terms of the way it was put together, of course. Let's see here. Can look at these covers, though. I mean, I just love these covers of these mags. But Mark D with a C. What's up, brother? Good to see you, bud. Oh, really? Wow, J-Man, I did not. Is that real? Are you, dude? Hey, Chris Persia, what's up, brother? What's that? Oh, man, you're not late at all, bro. Great to see you here, my friend. I'm just glad to see some friends pop in, man. I love seeing everybody hang out and enjoy me. But see, the big ones for me, wow, J-Man, I did not know it was going that high. Well, I used to be able to grab him for a couple of bucks. Whoa. 400 buckles, huh? Wow. Well, I won't be collecting those anytime soon. Ever. Still have a few of them, and they're not in great shape because, again, those were newsprint type. So, but I'll tell you what, Comics Journal, I still have all my Comics Journals, like almost all of them from the 80s up until the late 80s or something like that. Well, I appreciate you, Chris Purge. It's good to see you there, bro. Yeah, Comics Feature was also not very well put together, really, to be perfectly honest. The best ones were, of course, again, Comics Journal. Let's look at a couple of covers here. I mean, every month this came out, look, these were the times right here. This is, in the 80s when comics were important, were special. You looked forward to it. You wanted to read about about all the new stuff that was going on in comics. There was 100-page mags. They were very dense. This is, I guess, I don't know. I don't want to try to sound pretentious because they were pretentious enough. The Comics Journal, as I used to jokingly call them, or lovingly, in fact, call them the Comics Journal, they really had a high opinion of themselves. They were elitist. By the way, they were self-admitted elitists. They used to let Kenneth Smith do a monthly column called Dramas of the Mind. Kenneth Smith, there's Raquel Briggs. There you go. Kenneth Smith was a professor at LSU down here, but you're in Louisiana. In Baton Rouge, you'll get put in jail if you say LSU. It's LSU because you got to say it like that, Tigers. And he was a well-known academic, and he actually produced a fanzine called Phantasmagoria, which he was well known for. But he used to write a column in Comics Journal, and I would try to read it, and everything would be $25 words, and you would read it, and you would come away going, what in the living hell did that have to do with comic books? And the Comics Journal didn't care. Comics Journal, I guess they're the Atlantic of comics trade magazines, I suppose. They're pretentious. And again, when I'm calling them elitists, they called themselves elitists. But they also, at that point, unlike now, they did know they had to report on mainstream comics, but they just didn't like to. They thought they were above mainstream comics. If it wasn't R. Crumb, or if it wasn't some underground comic, they would, oh dear, they were too good, mummy, to talk about this awful Marvel and DC comics. Oh, how gauche. Yeah, that was Comics Journal. And the industry pros hated him for it. Jim Shooter hated him for it, but he sat down for interviews with him. They were the big one at the time. This was, again, in the late 70s and early 80s. And the issues that I did not have, as I said, I went back and backtracked. It's impossible to get some of the early issues of the Comics Journal. J-Man was looking at the price of some of those comic scene mags that I was showing a little while ago. I don't even want to know what older Comics Journals go to, but probably not as much as Comic Scene now that I think about it, because that was Jim Steranko. And it had a lot of Jim Steranko art. First Officer, the wonderful, magnificent Raquel Briggs. I love you, Raquel. Thank you for being here. Great to see you. Nevertheless, this mag had enthralled me. Every month, I couldn't wait to get Comics Journal and to find out what an idiot I am for reading mainstream comics. But hey, we used to joke about that, but we bought it. And Gary Groth, the publisher, who I'd love to talk to sometimes. I met him at a con in 1994, and he was really nice to me. I'm a big fan of his, but we would joke around. He did not like mainstream comics much, but he was also very supportive of the king of comics, Jack Kirby. And I appreciate him for that. Wait a minute. Let's see here. Comics are number 85, graded at 8.0. $600 on eBay. I have that issue. $600. Dude. Holy crap. Pretty sure. Well, actually, I think I have 85. I was still buying it at the time. I don't know. There's number 93. I wonder what 93 is going for. Holy crap. What's that? Which drawing are you referring to, Snortopoopas? Do you mean this one? This was Fred Himbeck. He was a satirical cartoonist that mostly, he's a cool dude, by the way. I really like him. I love his stuff. He used to do satirical superhero stuff. But yeah, again, like I said, this one here, I wonder what this one's going for, number 53. Because it took me 20 years to find this in a back issue bin in Texas somewhere. I looked for it forever. This is the one that started all of that trouble. This is the one that started the big lawsuit. You know, this issue with Harley got the Comics Journal in so much trouble because he insulted pretty much everything that ever existed in the universe. And again, in the Comics Journal, one thing I loved about him, their interviews, whether they interviewed an asshole like Ellison, who, by the way, incidentally, barely did any comics. He wrote maybe 4 or 5 comics in his life, but and before they did this interview, he'd written like 2 or 3. But they had to interview his ass and get themselves in trouble. It was kind of funny. That led to many, many years later, the big lawsuit. I'll never forget this issue. That's a crazy cover by Don Simpson. Harlan Boo Crapper. Yeah, that's right. Look at Raquel. He is that, the jackass. Not on eBay, huh? The Harlan Ellison issue, I don't even want to know what that sucker's going for. But anyway, it led to this. And this was maybe, I don't know, 6, 7 years later when it finally came to, and this had all the transcripts to the court case. Jim Shooter stuck his big face in it because he hated the Comics Journal. Because a few years later, someone who was a disgruntled employee at Marvel Comics broke a story about a memo. Now, I'm kind of fuzzy on it because I didn't go back. Oh, brightest day. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. Let's see here. Jim Shooter had written a memo to his workers, to his the rest of his editorial staff. He was, of course, the EIC at Marvel for many years. In my opinion, I love what he did with Valiant later, but I think he ran Marvel into the ground in the 80s. That's my opinion. But he was vindictive. I mean, look, and by the way, I revere him for some ways. This guy, he started writing comics as a 13-year-old back in the 60s, and he was one of the, most prolific Legion of Superheroes writers. But when he became EIC at Marvel, anyway, he hated the Comics Journal because he distributed put it like this: there was a memo that leaked that was not supposed to get leaked, in which he referred to old media guy. Good to see you there. His readers as, quote, the little, I'm not going to say the word here, the little F's. It was the famous, I'll just say it here, just for the little fucks memo. And that got around the industry thanks to the Comics Journal. Well, that's why he formed a vendetta. In my opinion, this is all opinion stuff. I don't know anything. He went after him. He testified on behalf of Michael Fleischer, who was suing the Comics Journal because Harlan Ellison shut his mouth off, calling him nuts and calling how crazy he was. Ellison was talking about his Spectre. Remember his Michael Fleischer and Jim Apato's Spectre run in Adventure Comics in the 70s, which was, it was really nuts. It was so it was batshit and crazy, and it was nuts. And Ellison was complimenting on how crazy it was, and he didn't like it. Anyway, that was fun stuff. And yes, by the way, old man media guy, I agree. Shooter's New Universe crap in the mid 80s. Really, I mean, I think he also chased a lot of their best creators away, in my opinion, along with James Galton. But he and what he did to Jack Kirby chased a lot of people away. What he and Galton did to Kirby, the Kirby art controversy. But yeah, Shooter, the New Universe was pap. Ugh. And look, they're different. There are different swings of the pendulum in terms of which company had the most quality. In the 60s, it was clearly Marvel. In the 70s, it was kind of a toss-up, but maybe Marvel had better stuff. I'm a big 70s guy, as you know. And in the 80s, it was clearly DC by a long shot. Except early in the 80s, yes, Marvel had some great stuff. But a lot of their greatest creators jumped ship, went to DC, or went into the independent market. So, but I loved the Comics Journal. And, let's see here. Sorry. I'm in some trouble. All right. It was just, that was the one I looked forward to the most. A couple more covers. Rest in peace, the great Wally Wood and Russ Manning. Wow. Died around the same time. DC parodied Shooter in some comic or other, where he's a supervillain who accidentally shoots his own foot off. I can't remember the issue, what comic it was, but yeah. Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about Don and Maggie Thompson as well, old media guy. I'm glad you know who they are. I mean, I used to love the Comics Buyer's Guide. I'm going to talk about, earlier, in case you weren't here, I was talking about Jim Shooter's comic scene, which later became media scene preview. Let's see here. But a couple of more Comics Journal covers. Very early issue here. I have this one, I believe. Like I said, I don't have all of the early issues. But, back then also, Comics Journal, like I said, it was highfalutin. It was elitist, but it still did report on and do very in-depth reviews of mainstream comics as well. And the interviews with some of the great, that's how I learned so muc about all of my favorite comic artists in terms of their life and everything, because these were long-form interviews in the Comics Journal. These are 30, 40-page interviews. Not a lot of flair, not a lot of flash to them. Very meaty, substantive interviews, which I loved about them. Why I really loved, they were, people used to pick on Gary Grubb, but I actually did respect what he did. And it was, I loved it. And so I'd love to talk to him someday again. But as far as just your mainstream superhero stuff, which, or independent, your lively, your colorful stuff out there that doesn't really go too far into the Comics Journal, definitely went out there in terms of all of the backdoor stuff, not knocking that stuff, by the way, the independent stuff or and things like that. Whereas a little bit more mainstream, but very popular, was Amazing Heroes, also by Fantagraphics, who published the Comics Journal. This was strictly mostly for your bigger stuff. And I'll never forget getting this first issue. I have every issue of, I think I may have every issue of Amazing Heroes. There was like 204 of them or something like that. And the specials. And I think I still have them all. I don't think I ever missed it, but I could have missed an issue here and there. I don't know. You know how your memory goes. But I think I have them all. This is, of course, the first, first few were regular magazine size, like Comics Journal. Then they changed them later. But believe me, I'm going to talk about a lot of other mags too. I'm just showing a few of these pics here. You can only load so many of these pics. Plus, I haven't had a chance to do any research. I'm doing all this with no research, guys. This is just free flowing, my garbage, lousy old man memory. I'm doing my best I can. I didn't have a chance. I've been so busy. So I've been gone yesterday and today. I've had no chance to devote any kind of real research to this. So I thought it would be a visual thing, like memory lane stuff, because I don't know how many of you even remember any of these mags. But I know I loved them, and I couldn't wait to get the new one. And seeing these covers always just gives me a good feeling. It's part of my, it's just part of some of the best days of my life. Just like looking at it. It's similar as far as science fiction geek stuff, like seeing old Starlog magazines. I love that. One day I'm going to do a show where we just talk about Starlog a little bit. So I don't know how many people. Most of my friends at the time were definitely buying these mags, but I don't know how many people did. Obviously they did very well. But almost all comics journalism today is online. As far as, in fact, pretty much all of it. It's in terms of new stuff, and of course the industry is just terrible anyway, but it's in terms of new stuff, it's all online. I'll talk later about the only things coming out that are actually being printed that I love to get that are about comics and they're about old stuff. D-Bud says, one of my customers wrote a bunch of comics reviews for Amazing Heroes. Oh, cool. I knew a few people that wrote some too. They didn't pay him much. I don't think it covered his comic book purchases. He bought every title. Well, there you go. A lot of people just wrote for it for fun. Oh, number one, thank you so much. I'm just winging it here like I always do. That's all I know how to do. Not the research type. But again, I loved Amazing Heroes. This was not the filet mignon in terms of substance that the Comics Journal was. This was the cheeseburger of Fantagraphics. But I loved it, you know. And you didn't miss Amazing Heroes. You got your stack of comics, and you got the Amazing Heroes, and you go home and you read about. It did interviews, it did hero histories, and of course, it did news about what's coming out. And and again, it was Fantagraphics, same as Comics Journal, so it was very well done. Kim Thompson, I think, mostly did it, and of course, I think even guys like before he went Looney Tooney, Mark Waid worked for it, and many other people. Gerard Jones before he went. Well, no one's saying. But I see these covers, and they always, just like a Starlog, like Starlog did as well. Like when I look at an old Starlog, they take me back to various points in my life. I don't know if you know where I'm coming from with that, any of you. When I see old same thing when I see comic book covers from whatever the eras are. When I see these covers of Comics Journal and Amazing Heroes. You know, I don't know. It gives me, I know nostalgia is not fun, not great, I guess, but I love it. They make me happy just seeing these covers, you know, and it's, man. When they take me back to I can remember certain things I was doing. Like sometimes if it's a Starlog mag, or if it's a comic book, or if it's a Comics Journal or an Amazing Heroes or whatever, it takes me to a time where I can go, oh, I think I remember what I was doing when I bought that in 1980, whatever it was. Yeah. Oh, well, wow. You just bagged that Amazing Heroes, the one about Crisis today. Wow, there you go. I mean, I'm going to be digging all of mine out soon. They're buried, but I'm going to dig them out. But I also, and we talked a couple of weeks ago about Raquel says, I feel that way about books, photos, real nostalgia, affinity, without witness. Yeah, exactly. It just takes you back in your mind and in your heart. It really does. And by the way, I'm that way about Starlog. Like I said, I'm that way about certain old books that I love too, as well. Old Wayne Boring. And a few weeks back, unfortunately, the great David Anthony Kraft passed, who published this fine mag, Comics Interview. And I touched on it a little bit when we were talking about on the Global Geek Gang the day he passed. Again, this mag was a little bit different. Of course, it was not Fantagraphics. It wasn't. It was similar to the Comics Journal in terms of its interviews. But it was purely that, about interviewing industry professionals. It wasn't really about news or any of that kind of stuff so much. I don't know if I have every issue of this one, but I bought when there was somebody that I wanted to read from. So I bought most of them. This is one of my favorite covers. I love this issue. God knows what this is. I don't know if it's worth anything or not, but I love this issue. And so, rest in peace, David Anthony Kraft. This was a great mag. Again, like Amazing Heroes, this was, for those who don't know, this was comic book size, 8.5 by 11. It was after the first couple of issues, Amazing Heroes went to that size, and Comics Interview was also that size. So it wasn't magazine size. Not 8.5, 11 is magazine size, I think. I forget. Well, it wasn't. It was comic book size, not magazine size, is what I mean. I can't forget the measurement on that. And it was a staple back, though. And again, I mean, these covers just drive me crazy. I just love them. Phantom Outsider. Yes. All right, I have a confession to make, folks. I broke into Phantom Outsider's house, and I took pictures of all these. You got me, brother. Busted. Dedicate this one to our great fantastic friend, our dear friend Mark C, because he was a John Byrne fan. A while back, just a touch again. It makes me sad when we talk about him. We love him. This, I always meant to ask him if he had this issue. If not, I was going to surprise him with it and give it to him because I know he would wanted it. He probably had it. I don't even know. Well, he was at the time he wasn't buying this. He was a lot younger when this came out, so I don't know. But I always wanted to surprise him. It never got around to it. A sad lament there. But he would have liked that if he didn't have it. And again, a lot of people didn't. A lot of people didn't even know about this, Max. I don't know. So yeah. Look at it again. These covers just. Now again, we talked earlier about comics feature, not by Fantagraphics. This was it was an okay mag. I liked it because look, there's a Legion issue right there, so I love a Legion superhero. I bought it whenever I could find it. I think someone mentioned in the chat that it wasn't available that much. This was not really distributed in the same way that the Fantagraphics mags like Comics Journal and Amazing Heroes, or even Comics Interview, which you could get through the normal distributors. I got it sometimes, but it wasn't easy. I usually have to get it as back issues, if I believe. I don't think I ever really found it that much when it was new, until a little bit later. I didn't load a lot of pics, so we're going to look at, I'm going to do some of the old-fashioned way by Googling some different pics of some more rare mags. But I just love looking at these. Media guy, yeah. Kal-El, 48, good to see you. Thank you for popping in, man. Grimjack, dude. I loved Grimjack, especially the early ones. Old media guy, fan of Grimjack? Cool, man. In a better time, Grimjack would make a phenomenal TV show with that incredible concept. I wouldn't want him touching it now with a 10-foot pole, buddy. Wouldn't want him to touch a TV or movie. Stay away from Grimjack. And I hope no one heard us, goes, oh, let's get a hold of that one now. Whoop. So, yeah. Then, of course, Starlog had to get in on it. Starlog magazine decided to go into the comics game. That's how big. This is early 80s, folks. Starlog didn't just produce Starlog, for those who don't know. Starlog had to go out there and do their own comic magazine. Because reasons, I guess. They just thought, and again, it's funny, this one here is from volume 1. It only lasted a couple of issues, and then it tanked. And then a few years later, they brought it back, and it went on for a while. But I have all these. Of course. Duh. Let's see here. Let's look at some more obscure stuff. This is some more covers of comics feature. Here's an issue I always wanted to get. I don't have this one. It's probably, even though it's not. I mean, by the way, the interior is really on some the type work on those early, and the typesetting and things like that's really kind of amateurish on the interiors of these, but they always had nice covers. And of course, later it got better than, but there was a few issues I always wanted to get that I never got. But let's see here. Comic Scene. Now, Comic Scene, we looked at the Steranko one for those who were here earlier, but then there was Comics Scene by Starlog magazine, which was interesting. Like I said, its first run, it got canceled. I was like, oh, I was liking that. It was a Starlog. It was just like reading a Starlog mag, except it was comics. And there were a few issues of it. Then gone. Yeah, Pat S., you won't. Well, I'm not really. Look, if any of you are a lot younger than me and you liked Wizard, no judgment. But Wizard wasn't. It was I don't know what would be the journalistic equivalent of junk news. It was the biggest industry trade in the 90s. I just hated it. Wizard was crap to me. I bought it sometimes because it was, for a while, it just took over. It took over, and I had to buy it. Sometimes I could not stand the format. Wizard was idiotic, trash, in my opinion. By the way, no offense to anyone who liked Wizard, I just couldn't stand it. I just, and everyone bought it. I had to buy it. It came to a point that there weren't many other bags. There were some that I'm going to show that were better at the time, but Wizard was the big one. Very much tabloid journalism. Thank you, Raquel. That's what Wizard was. The format was nice. It was actually very slick mag, but Jesus Christ, it was annoying. And I really hated it when some of the publishers got with Wizard and did these exclusives that you had to send off the friggin' Wizard to get stuff sometimes. Just hated that crap. But these early issues of Comic Scene by Starlog, I really loved. So I'm showing you some of the early ones now. These early covers. And then eventually they brought it back. And I bought it. It was like reading Starlog about comics. It wasn't as good. Well, these, like I said, I like the first ones. But it was worth buying. I don't think I bought it religiously, but I did buy it, And it was better than Wizard, in my opinion. Yep, it wasn't tabloid format, Wizard, but it was a tabloid journalism. Yeah, the formatting was slick and all that stuff. It was so full of gimmicky junk that they had to sell it in a bag so they could stick cards and all this other kind of crap in there. Comics Journal didn't do that. Comic Scene didn't do that. Amazing Heroes didn't do that. They were just there to read, but these were full of gimmicky shit. It's like it was marketed to 8-year-olds. Screw you. And it was written that way. The writing was absolutely sophomoric most of the time. They had these, they started, remember when Overstreet used to come out on a yearly price guide, or eventually they started coming out with their own stuff, but Wizard, people started using the Wizard price guide in the back. I hated it. The Wizard price guide was crap. I didn't like following it. I didn't like when I went to a comic shop and somebody was using the Wizard price guide. And and now, of course, they have conventions. I don't know if they still have them. I think they still got Wizard World cons all over the place. Screw Wizard. You notice they don't make the freaking magazine anymore. I just hated Wizard. So screw them in the mouth. Anyone likes them? Okay. If you look, and again, I'm saying that as someone that several times when there was an article I wanted to read, I would buy it, or I'd have to buy it, or if I'd have to send off just from crap that they put out, but I didn't like it. So, but a lot of people, sometimes it was the only game in town, as it were. And now it's dead. Thank you. I'm glad it's dead. Screw off. Yeah. So, at that time when Wizard was out there, nobody was buying the good stuff. Now, again, there were things like that were kind of more for the abstract. There were some journals that really were what you would have to call trade journals, because only people who were big time into the minutia of what was going on in the industry, who had either been into business or whatever, or were just really hardcore collectors, would like this next magazine, which I have almost every issue of. And that's I don't know how many of you remember Comic Book Marketplace. I liked Comic Book Marketplace for a long time. I still have tons of them. It wasn't everybody's cup of tea, I guess. It was considered a bit dry. Some would say. Some did. I didn't say that. But just saying. But I don't know if any of you bought Comic Book Marketplace. Like I say, I still have. I mean, this ran for a good while, too. And it was, again, at a time where it was just, to me, it was far better than Wizard. Well, what wasn't? But, there was, Comics Journal was still sort of coming out a little bit here and there. It kind of got to a point where I'd stopped buying Comics Journal for a while. This is, again, into the 80s and into the early 2000s. But, yeah, I'm gonna talk about Comics Buyer's Guide in a second, there, fam. Absolutely, don't worry about that. Oh, Mark D with a C says, well, I loved the Overstreet. We used to joke about it. We call it the Overpriced Comic Street Guide sometimes. But I liked it when it was a yearly mag, when you had to wait up until around the, what was it? Was it around the early 90s or so, or something like that, D-Bud, when you had to wait for Overstreet every year for the new prices. And then eventually they started coming out with all these monthly updates and things like that. And then eventually Overstreet started putting all this stuff, these different mags out. And I kind of tapped out a little bit. I still have a bunch of my old Overstreet price guides, even some of the hardcovers. Remember when that was coming out yearly? So I used to love getting the new issue, the yearly edition of the Overstreet price guide. I used to love it. So let's see, what is it? If I missed something there, so yeah, Mark, and I still have some of my old ones. Yeah, we used to really look forward to that. It was kind of a nice yearly thing when the old Overstreet price guide used to come out, and it got kind of full of ads and stuff later. But yeah, let's see here. Yes, they were doing quarterly updates around when Wizards started because they were competing with Wizard. Yeah, before Wizards started their stupid price guide in there. But I used to like it. No, look, I liked the Overstreet, quarterly mag. It was fine. I liked it before that. I know this is old man on the porch stuff, but I liked it when it was every year the update. But Wizard forced them to compete because Wizard started publishing their stupid price guide. And you had to fight with them over it. I get it. Look, hey, I totally get it. But who else liked Comic Book Marketplace? Probably just me. I think I had like two different friends that bought it, and we would talk about it sometimes. And everyone else, I don't know, but it lasted a good long time though. Let's see here. Bop. So yeah, Comic Book Marketplace, again, I always have a special spot in my heart for it. I can't remember when they stopped. Even I eventually tapped out and stopped getting it for a while, but I mean, I still have tons and tons of them. Lemonade it is. Then again, it really gets. Let's see here. Did anyone buy comics? I was way out of the business and I was buying this mag for some reason. Comics Retailer. I bought this for a little while. This wasn't one of the better mags, to be quite honest with you, for me. But it was interesting. And you couldn't find this one as easily where I was anyway. It was, as a kid, I didn't really find a lot of pics of it. I can't remember how long it lasted, to be honest. Now for an obscure one, I want to see if anyone knows that this was one only lasted 4 issues. And I liked it, so of course it had to be canceled. Does anyone remember in the mid-'80s, 4-Color magazine? I have every one of these. And then it went belly up. It's so obscure that you can't even find any good pictures of it online. I'd have to dig my copies out to get pictures of it. Sorry, I don't have much comics knowledge. Only series that I ever collected was Shogun Warriors and didn't keep it. Well, I was just on a show with my buddy T-Shirt, a historian, and he was talking to a cousin of the great Herb Trimpe, who drew that comic Shogun Warriors. And I got to talk to him for a few minutes, and just a little bit, not much, but yeah, I love Shogun Warriors, the comic. I was never able to get the toys, Dad Man Walking, but yeah, I appreciate you there. Oh, D-Bud. Cool. See, I couldn't get comic book retailer much here. I liked it when I found it, but it wasn't one of my favorites or anything, but I just couldn't really get it down here that much. Captain Hipster Spock, what's up, my friend? Good to see you, buddy. Yeah, let's see here. It's like I said, this one is so obscure, you can't even find a really great picture of the cover. I should have, downloaded some. I didn't get a chance to do a lot of download, but there were only 4 issues of this, if I'm remembering it right. It says the magazine for comic book connoisseurs, and it was pretty slick. It was expensive. It's probably why it didn't last. I mean, the mag wasn't expensive. I mean, expensive to make. It wasn't really that bad, and I was excited about it. I kind of liked it. They had a Mobius cover, for God's sake. To see that Mobius cover, I can't even find a good picture of it. It's so obscure. I have to dig mine out to find a decent picture of it. See, you just can't find good pictures of this thing. Oh, there's one. A little bit better, but no, you can't even really see that one well. I wonder if I get a big image of this one here. And look, it's not even worth anything anymore. 1987, number 5, number 1, volume 1, number 5. Yeah, I can't even get a good picture of it. There you go. That's about it. Whoops. One issue per color. I think there were a few more than that, man. Yeah. It's always been puzzling, the term 4-color, because of course, they called them 4-color comics, back then. Hey, oh my old media guy, dude, you win the obscure prize of the day. You know about the Wolveroach controversy? Wow, I loved Cerebus, by the way, back then. Wow, dude. Props on that one, brother, as the kids say. Now I'm very angry with myself for saying props. Clobberin Archives website. Oh, man. Cool, dude. You know about the Wolveroach. Jeez, man. That's top quality stuff there, dude. Great work. Man. Let's see if we can get that back up there. So yeah, 4-color was rare. Let's just put it like that. A very rare mag. Hey, Captain Hipster Spock, does that mean that you know Wolveroach too? Wow. Do we have Cerebus fans in the building? I know a guy, believe it or not, because I didn't buy all of Cerebus, but I have a lot of the early issues. And I have a friend of mine, Minimus is not here tonight, Claude, but he bought every Cerebus. He bought them all. I'm sorry, Raquel, it was an accident. It'll never happen again until it does. Still have the Wolveroach Cerebus issue because they had the debut of Normal Man. Oh yeah, one day, dude, I love Normal Man. I have every one of them. I love Aardvark Vanaheim. Yeah, but we met Dave Sim a couple of times. Dave Sim was a character, dude. If Dave Sim, he does some things today. He does some things, but back then, if there was such a thing as cancel culture, Dave Sim would have been canceled 50 times. That some bitch didn't play around. He did actually play around. He was crazy. But Cerebus, I bought some of the early mags issues, and of course, when I stopped collecting the regular series, I did buy a bunch of the quote unquote the phone books, as we call them, the big reprint books. But I know someone who bought all those and every issue because he did 300 issues and some stuff. He planned to do it for 300. Wow, cool. I love Normal Man, dude. You man after my own heart. Reading Normal Man. First big collection is definitely Cerebus. Literally, yeah, Cerebus. But Church and State. I don't know if Church and State was my favorite or not, but that was a great one. And I loved Uncle Julius. El El Rod, respect. Yeah, I remember. I didn't even know what Cerebus was when I saw it on that order form, and I bought that. And I have, I, I have a special limited an issue of Swords of Cerebus before the big phone book reprints that everyone talks about. Those big collections. They did Swords of Cerebus, about 2 or 3 of those. And I've got the one with a cover. I remember bringing mine up to Dave Sim and Gerhard to get them to sign it at a con one time in the 90s. And he said, wow, where'd you get this? They're only like 200 something or 2,000, whatever it was, of this cover, because this cover is rare. Where'd you get that? And I just told him where I got it. He says, whoa, man, I can't believe you have this. And he signed it. And even though Gerhard wasn't working on the comic at the time, I got him to sign it. So, yeah, High Society. Yeah, I think High Society is probably the best. I'm going to have to agree with you on that. High Society was fantastic. Man, I need to go back and reread those again, dude. Oh, boy. Remember back then when the biggest problem the industry had was people bitching about Dave Sim and Cerebus? Dims were the days. Let's see here. Well, let's look at some more. Let's see here. What are some other rare ones? Comics. More Comics Journal covers. Because there's so many. That's the granddad. That's the big one for me. Just look a couple more, and then I'm going to move on to some of this stuff that's going on now in terms of with these types of bags and talk about what a pathetic state comics are in. Can't find any good pictures of some of these covers. Yeah. There we go. Okay, let's fix something there. Sarah was told you it was British for 2 times. Oh man. Oh my goodness. Anyway, so yeah, some of these covers to Comics Journal. And again, it's just the fact that there was an industry at that time. That people cared about comics at all. Yeah, I mean, just a little bit of a visual rundown of some great covers of Comics Journal. This was the big one for me for the longest time. This was my favorite. Yes, and I'm not even an elitist. You know, I love Amazing Heroes and things like that. Well, maybe I'm an elitist in some ways, but I have no reason to be. Oh crap! Let's see here. Bop 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 bop. Let's see. Let's get some Amazing Heroes again. A few more, a rundown of some Amazing Heroes covers. Oh, you got to put magazine behind it if you really want to get cut. You know, get the cut to the chase there with it. You know, it's just a damn shame that we don't get this anymore. But there's no industry to cover, so why would they, right? That's why, you know, that's why, because I really hardly collect anything new anymore, pretty much nothing. My favorite new publications that are new, that you buy, that you read, are not comic books anymore. They're magazines about comics, because there are comics that cover. But the difference is these quote unquote these trade publications that I've been talking about were about current day. They were about covering, yes, not only the past, but the news of the day and things like that in the comic book industry, which doesn't really exist anymore. Now all we have is to read about comics past, comics history. And I don't know about any of you guys who know about those of you who know some of these comics and know some of these mags. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Tomorrow's, the publication by John Morrow. I mean, the company by John Morrow right now. But they're my last refuge, really. Oh, yeah. Remember the Amazing Heroes swimsuit specials? You couldn't do that anymore, could you? But back in the 90s, a chap named John Morrow, who's a good dude. I really like him. He's always been really nice to me. And he's just I really love what he does. Produced a magazine, which was black and white. It was very, very cheaply made. It was a pamphlet. And it was devoted to the King of Comics. It was, of course, called the Jack Kirby Collector. This was in the mid 90s. Those of you who know me know how much I love the great King of Comics, Jack Kirby. I wish I could find some covers. Again, I'd have to dig mine up because I have every issue of this mag. I guess. It was a magazine mostly. Imagine a magazine that's lasted now since 1995 or 6, I think it was. And they're only up to issue number 75 or something like that. It's quarterly now. It was kind of been almost always quarterly. And I remember after I found out about this mag, again, there's no other comic artist other than later there was a fanzine called Pacesetter for the great George Perez. But as far as a regular ongoing magazine, even though it was quarterly or whatever, to Kirby or to any other artist that has a mag like this. And I have every issue of the Jack Kirby Collector. At first, there were little black and white pamphlets with black and white covers as well. And when I heard about it, there'd been a couple of issues out already. I remember writing to John Morrow and asking and ordering all of the back issues of it. They're very thin. Have you ever seen the original issues of the Jack Kirby Collector? They're very thin. And again, they're they're black and white mags. But, eventually, hey, Jack Smallmall, good to see you. Thank you for popping in, Jack Smallmall. I hope you are doing well. I hope you're doing well, my dear. Thank you for stopping in. But the Jack Kirby Collector eventually went into a bigger, normal magazine size format. And then for a while, it was gigantic, like Jack Kirby's imagination itself. There's like, what's there, 78 issues now? I mean, there's like 79 or 80. Forgot how many issues there are now. Imagine such a great creator that he has a magazine devoted to him, and it's still going on. We're still up to about, 80-something issues, whatever it is. I'm waiting on the new issue right now. That's actually going to be in book. It's a double size in book form about the old gods. Can't wait. It even has it's had a. This is a testament to how great the King of Comics is. It had a running feature, has a running feature. I think it's every month or every issue, called Kirby as a Genre. There are a lot of great comics artists, creators, writers and such. Are any of them a genre? But Kirby is, because of all the unbelievable stuff he created. He was a master. To me, it was the most extraordinary imagination ever cut loose. Hey, J-Man, thank you for being here, bro. I appreciate you, buddy. Thank you for stopping in, man. And it's always a pleasure. Please, everyone, go subscribe to J-Man's great channel. He does a lot. He has a great one. He does really cool stuff and fun content and geeks out like we always do here. So appreciate you, J-Man. Thank you so much, my friend. Good to see you. So the Jack Kirby Collector is still being published. And not only that, Tomorrow's puts out some of the greatest mags. I don't know if any of you read those. But I buy a lot of them. Not just the Jack Kirby Collector. I buy a lot of their books as well. They have tons of books on comics history. Yeah. So Tomorrow's also has the great Roy Thomas working there for them. And another mag that's coming out right now that I buy quite often is Roy Thomas's Alter Ego, named after the old Jerry Bales and Roy Thomas mag, the old fanzine. Remember, this is not really about fanzines. This is about commercial trade mags, but a lot of them started out as fanzines. Some of them did. Let's see here. All right, let's see here. Alter Ego right now, still going. It's been going for a while. Actually, before that, though, they were doing a magazine I liked. I should put that one up there because I almost forgot about this one. Comic book artist. Was later replaced, but Comic Book Artist was great. I have every issue of Comic Book Artist. This was a great mag. Again, without Tomorrow's right now and the things that John Morrow is producing, I'd have nothing to read. And yes, all I care about reading now when it comes to his comics about comics history. The books they make are incredible. Again, I loved Comic Book Artists. This was a great magazine. Like I said, I have all of these. I'm gonna get to Alter Ego in a second, but I forgot. I kind of went out of order a little bit. And eventually, Comic Book Artist got replaced by another mag that I never missed. That again, I've been buying every issue. They're up to 120 something or other. This was in the early 2000s. It got replaced by a magazine I love. And this is probably my favorite mag right now, easily. Never miss it. I've often wanted to talk to I'm going to try to talk to the guy who makes it. I'm going to try to get him to come on one day. Michael Urey, the guy who produces it. But Back Issue Magazine. I love this mag. Whoops. Let's see here. Tomorrow's. Maybe that'll be easier. Yeah, that's the best way to find the covers. Ew, man, trying to find that cover of that. There. Sometimes it's tough to find the bigger covers. And other times you can find them, you know. But this is a great mag. They're up to like issue 120 something or other. I've got it. I never miss it. I've got it since the very first issue, which was that one, even though it's a small, tiny picture there. Some reason. And this is again, it is similar in some ways to Comics Journal. I hope Michael Urey wouldn't take this as an insult. He's a good dude. But it's devoted to Bronze Age comics. Now, I'm a Bronze Age baby. I'll admit it. Because even though I was born in the Silver Age, of course, because I'm old, by the time I could, as I've often said, ride my bicycle to the 7-Eleven and get my comics off the spinner rack for the 20 or 25 and cover price and whatnot. Hey, old media guy, thanks for stopping in. I appreciate it. Good seeing you. Thank you for being here. It was the Bronze Age by the time I was able to go start buying comics. And this was my era. This is what I loved. That's the new issue right there, actually. But this is a great mag. Because again, I just love me some Bronze Age, man. I gotta tell you. Always has beautiful covers. Yeah, the actual real Bronze Age, yeah. Minimus is here, everyone, but don't let that chase you away. Wah 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 wah. The All Jerks issue. So, Michael Urey's back issue magazine for Tomorrow's is just, again, I love it. Never miss it. Got them all. I love all the books these Tomorrow's does. I mean, it's just amazing stuff. Look at those covers. Let's see. Great mag. Amazing covers. Here's a tribute cover to the great Mark C. A great buddy Mark C. right there because he loved John Byrne. I always meant to ask him if he had that cover. Yeah. I think they did, Claude Barris. That was one of the early issues of the Adam Hughes Wonder Woman cover. I have it, but I think they did sell out of that one. Yeah, they've sold out of a lot of the early issues. This one is not. Look, this issue isn't even out yet. I can't wait to get this one. Look at that cover, man! Wow. So, and then finally for Alter Ego. Because I said Jerry Bales it started a lot of the early fanzines in the 50s and 60s, and Roy Thomas worked with him a little bit on some of those, and later he came back with this one. I can't remember exactly when Alter Ego started back up, late 90s or something like that, and then I think maybe he started with a new numbering. Alter Ego kind of mostly deals with gold and silver. I don't have every issue of it, but I buy most of them. I've come again. This is one that if it has an article that I'm really interested in, so I didn't buy every issue of this one. I mean, I don't, but I have most. I have almost all the original new run, like this original run, but until they started numbering it again, like these here. But I have tons of these, and it's still going on today. And every time I'll always look, see what they got. I buy all of these from the Tomorrow site. And if they have an issue, I gotta have, like this one, for example, or others, that I'd grab it. And I probably should say this reminds me, this cover right here, because big Clobberin times wishes, best wishes to the great artist Neil Adams. This, of course, this issue here is about Denny O'Neil, but it's got Neil Adams art on it. Neil Adams had a bit of a medical scare, I heard, that Minimus mentioned yesterday. But he looks like he's going to be okay. So that's the thing. He's getting up there and everything. So best wishes to him. He's a legend, Neil Adams. So hope he is all right. Yeah. So. Bop, 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 bop. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, let's see here. He snapped at some Twitter who joked about it. Blah, 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 blah. Too long removed from good. Okay. Now there we go. Wow. There we go. All right. Well, again, so basically, I did kind of what I wanted to do. I kind of talked about mags about comics. And it's just kind of a little visual history. We talked earlier at the outset of the show about some of the earlier mags about comics. Again, always have to stress, not fanzines. It's a little bit different kind of than from what the basic fanzines. To do a deep dive on fanzines, I mean, that would just, it's really tough to find a lot of info on them, for one thing. I appreciate that, Mark. Like I said, not a lot of people are really into this kind of topic anyway, but I wanted to show a bunch of different pictures of these mags. I loved them. I still have all these that you're seeing right there, and still have all the ones I used to collect. Well, Snort, I appreciate that. Yeah, well, look, comics have a rich history. It's just that most of it kind of, as far as the interesting bit, most of it, that kind of stops at the well, for me, at the mostly in the 20th century. There was not that there's nothing after that, but just Joe. Joe, as in jobber, dude. No, I didn't talk about. Actually, D Bud, where were you? I did talk about the Jack Kirby collector a good bit. You must have missed that, bro. I talked about the Jack Kirby collector. I talked about how I started buying it in the 90s. By the way, again, Jobber, no, I did talk about Wizard, but I talked about it in not a very nice way because I didn't like Wizard much, man. I trashed it kind of a little bit, to be honest. But I didn't show any. I just didn't show any pictures from Wizard. But yes, D-Bud, I did talk about the Jack Kirby collector. Absolutely, man. And Claude, I also talked about Four Color, Comic Book Connoisseur. I talked about Jack Kirby Collector. I did mention the Jack Kirby Quarterly, which didn't last that long, but I have that one. But yeah. Yeah, D, but that was when I started. I was doing the Tomorrow stuff, man. So sorry you missed that one, brother. But that's cool. But oh yeah, as you can see, the Jack Kirby collector's there. Like I say, my favorite one was always. For those who don't know who Gary Groth is, he's the publisher of at Fantagraphics and the Comics Journal. Fantagraphics also published Amazing Heroes and, of course, comics like Love and Rockets and things like that. We did meet him a couple times. He said, did I make an impression on him? I wasn't mean to him, was I? I was nice to him. A lot of people were mean to him, but I was nice to him. I did, by the way, I think you weren't here earlier, Claude Perishable, we were talking about Cerebus, and I told him about Dave Sim. We talked a little bit about Dave Sim, some of your adventures, or or at least I told him about how I got him to sign my Swords of Cerebus, my rare Swords of Cerebus. Yeah. Oh yeah, hey, Phantom Outsider, thank you. We can't go without talking about Comics Buyer's Guide. I did forget that one. You know why? Because I never checked my damn notes. So I'm going to do it. Phantom Outsider for the win. Let me get that going. So, the Comics Buyer's Guide. Now, I liked it when it was in the newspaper format. Call me crazy. When I had a subscription for many years. Remember, I can't remember everything, guys, but I totally almost forgot. Phantom Outsider, I owe you big because I would be really mad at myself if I'd finished without talking about the Comics Buyer's Guide. Now, this is a different thingy. This was a weekly mag, at least for a while. It was newspaper type format, similar to Comic Scene, Jim Steranko's Comic Scene that I talked about earlier. Don and Maggie Thompson. And again, I'm very, very pleased that you reminded me of that Phantom Outside. You're the best, man. Appreciate you. Oops. Let's see here. What am I doing? All right, I don't know what's going on with my StreamYards. Hang on a second, folks. There we go. All right, takes a second to pop up. Why it's not working? Okay, I fixed it. Sorry, everyone. StreamYard's problems and Boomer problems as well. So there we go. Why are you not working? Okay. I fixed it now, folks. I got it. Having a bit of an issue with this. Here we go. Why is it doing this? All right. I finally fixed it. There we go. Thank you. Boomerang, boom, 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 boom. Nerd Corporeal life form. Hello, hello, hello. Yeah, Robert Ingersoll, The Law is a Ass, as Claude puts it. Yeah, the Peter David, But I Digress. Remember his? Yeah, look. And again, thank you again, Phantom Outsider, buddy. I liked it better when it was the weekly, piece of little trade paper that you got in the mail. I had a subscription for this many years in the 80s and even into the 90s. Don and Maggie Thompson. Look at that. That's this was, everybody got this. Everybody who wanted to know what was going on. This was the fastest way to get comics news back then. And a lot of it was, let's be honest, it was good for getting news and stuff. It didn't really do in-depth types of stories all the time. Some of it did, but there were a lot of ads in this sucker. This was a trade paper. This was the definitive of the trade papers. This was the best of them, in my opinion. But it was a lot of ads in this sucker. Which, by the way, no, that's not a criticism. But if you wanted to know what was going on quicker, this was it. Like the newspaper format and regular features like Peter David's But I Digress until he went crazy, or until he showed he wasn't, he was crazy. Yeah, But I Digress was fun to read. It definitely was weekly. Because, well, like you said, Peter David was, he was, but as Minimus mentioned, Claude mentioned, did any of you read The Law is a Ass on a regular basis? I don't know. For some reason, I always like to read The Law is a Ass by Robert Ingersoll. I think I met him at a con in New Orleans once and talked to him about it. Yes, Peter David, who wrote a lot of excellent Star Trek novels. Of course, he wrote The Hulk for 11 years or whatever. Wrote a lot of. He's an extraordinarily prolific comic book writer. Even wrote a Babylon 5 episode, and he wrote some Babylon 5 books. And he wrote, amongst other, Peter David, was a very accomplished writer. And he wrote a regular column in the Comics Buyer's Guide called But I Digress. And it was usually, I wouldn't say I never missed it, but I probably always went to it. I think I read it most of the time. But, The Law is a Ass. No, that one's fuzzy. Well, that one's not coming out. I can't remember how many years I had a subscription to this thing. And apparently, Phantom Outsider and D-Bud and a lot of others remember it as well. Now later, I actually bought it for a while when it went to this format. It just wasn't the same for me. I still bought it sometimes. Man, I think I had a subscription for a while still when it had this format. It just wasn't the same. Canadian Spider-Man who does whatever the Canadian Spider-Man. What's up, buddy? Good to see you, bro. As always, man. Always great to see you. So, yeah, this mag kind of So, since you guys have helped me here, and remember one I was going to forget because I didn't look at my notes like a dumb arse. And yeah, we'll get out of here in a minute. Don't get me wrong. Does anyone else have another one? Because I will ask you, my friends who did love comics and read comics all your lives like I have. I talked about, let's say, I'll give it a brief rundown. Of course, we talked a lot about Comics Journal and Amazing Heroes. I talked about Jim Steranko's Comic Scene before it turned into Media Scene Preview, then Preview. I talked about Starlog Magazine Comic Scene. I talked about Comics Reader, Comic Retailer. I talked about Comics Feature, Comics Interview. What else? What else? What's a couple other ones? And no, Comics Review is different. That was just a bunch of newspaper strip reviews. What else? What else did I talk about? I can't remember all the ones I talked about now. We touched on it. We talked about Overstreet even a little bit. Yes, with Buyer's Guide, as Claude says, Don Thompson died. Maggie held on for a long time. Magazine format was supposed to be cost saving. Then the internet came along and killed it. That is true. That's what a lot of these things. Yeah, I didn't really talk about comic shops. Are they still making comic shop news? That was a news type pamphlet that they used to put out. I may as well talk about that. Oh, I just reminded myself of another one. Oh, okay. Dead Man Walking. Is it your birthday coming up? Dead Man Walking 55's birthday. Will you be 56? We have to change it to 56 or what, man? You'll be close to my age, man. Happy birthday to you, my friend. A big happy birthday. A big Clobberin Times shout out happy birthday to our good friend Dead Man Walking 55. And yes, let's see here. There's another one I forgot. Now, technically, we're getting into the area. It's not a fanzine, but this is probably what you get considered a propaganda. Marvel and DC both had their own propaganda rags. And what I mean by that is they had, can you call them journalism since they were mags about comics? But this is called Mags About Comics, this show. So, nevertheless, it wasn't like it was trying objective journalism or anything. Nevertheless, we should give it a look. Marvel had Foom. Friends of Old Marvel. You had to pretty much order it. I mean, I was never able to get this as a kid. In fact, this is the only issue of Foom I have, and mine's in better shape than this one I found a picture of. Any of you guys have Foom? 51? Oh, you're a youngster, buddy. Phantom Outsider. I'm looking at you, pal. Andy Bud. Did you guys have Foom? I know Claude has some. I was never able to get this thing. Friends of Old Marvel. D-Bud has some. I think I only have one of myself, but I have this one with the thing on it. Imagine that. But I love looking at these old Foom covers. I bet these are expensive now. Don't even tell me how. Earlier, my boy J-Man looked up one of those comic scenes by Steranko, and the price was ridiculous. I don't want to know how much this beach is. Yeah. I mean, Foom was great. But would you call that a propaganda rag? Since it was produced by the company and was just tooting their own horn in a sense? I'd have to consult with my first officer. It's not like it's journalism like Comics Journal or Amazing Heroes. It's a magazine about the industry and all the stuff coming out. Don't worry, I'm doing Amazing World next. But both Marvel and DC had their own little propaganda rags. I plan to get to those last anyway, but I almost forgot them. So it was, again, by the way, I'd love to get one. I'm not saying I'm knocking Foom. I'd love to have Foom, but I'm saying it was there. A little sort of you can't really call it a fanzine. They were made unless they're fans of themselves, I suppose. But I love Foom. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I bet these are ridiculously expensive now. I don't want to know what these bitches are going for. I don't even want to know what these suckers go for now. Friends of old Marvel. I'd love to have them, though. That's a fake Foom cover right there. What the hell? I was too young. By the way, it's nice to know there's something even I was too young for. I was too young to get Foom. Oh, I love that cover. But these covers are fantastic. Holy crap! The Thing issues. That's the only issue I have anymore. The Thing issue I just showed you, because I have a bet my copy's better in better shape than that one. Jesus Christ! They have a new Foom. Whoa! Cripes! But I know Claude has more issues of Foom than I do. So, and then of course, monkey see, monkey do, or as I always like to say, Marvel see, Marvel do, or it works the other way around. DC see, DC do. Oh, I'm sorry. I do have this issue as well. I do have this. I have number 11 as well because of the Kirby cover there. I'm pretty sure I have that one. Almost. Damn. Fairly sure I have this one as well. Now I got to go digging for it, make sure, because I'll probably end up saying not being able to find it, knowing me. But no, I think I do with some of the magazines. So, oh wow, D-Bud, you had Foom 10 through 13. Can't remember where that. Oh, finding them could be a bitch, man. But so anyway, DC had their own little Foom. And I do have a lot of these. And it was called, let me pull it up, The Amazing World of DC Comics. A little bit after, a little bit after Foom. And I don't have every issue. There weren't a lot of them, but I have the majority of the issues of this. Because I love The Amazing World of DC Comics mag. I love this propaganda rag right here. Now, I bet you, D-Bud, and I bet you, Phantom Outsider, also have these. Or no, I know you know about it, but this one I never could get. I had to go get these. The ones I have, and they're pretty expensive now. The ones I have are because I was able to go back and get them in the 80s. Because when they were coming out, you had to order it through DC. I never saw it on any comic rack. We didn't have comic racks because it was before comic shops. But I never saw this mag. I never found it on the drugstore racks. I don't know if it was distributed to racks. I don't think it was. If you got it, maybe you found it at stores. You had to order it, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm mistaken, someone can correct me, because that's the only way I ever saw it. And I was never able. I think I tried to send off for it, never got it when I was a kid because I wanted it. Let's see. I have that one. I wish I had that one. I have that one. Look, wraparound cover by the late, great Marshall Rogers for this one. I have this one. Let's see. You know, Dad Man Walking? It's just amazing how much better the artwork is in older comics. Truer words hath never been spoken, my friend. I concur. Let's see. I think Minimus was with me when I got some of these at different cons. I don't know. The Legion of Superheroes issue, I have that one, I'm pretty sure. The Justice League issue. The Villains issue. Carmen Infantino. Let's see. I wish I had this one. I don't have this one. I might have this one. Let's see here. Don't have this one. Trying to find the Wonder Woman cover. I think I see it. I don't. Oh, that's a crappy version, crappy picture. I don't think I have that. The Superman one. Look at that Neil Adams Wonder Woman cover. I wish I could have a better picture of that one to show. I'm going to try to refine my search so I can find a better picture of that beautiful Neil Adams one. I'm not sure if I have this. I don't think I have this one. Memory plays tricks, but I want to find a better picture of this one. Oh, there we go. There you go. That's a beautiful Neil Adams cover right there. Isn't that amazing? And World of DC Comics. Amazing as an amazing. Beautiful cover. Yeah. And so, let's see here. If anyone can think of any mag that I missed that you liked about comics, with the exception of Wizard, because we did talk about it, I just didn't show it. Sorry, Jobber. I hated Wizard, man. Ugh. Again, remember I said I bought it when I had to, but I freaking hated it. So I talked about Comic Book Marketplace, in case anyone's wondering or remembers. Comic book artist. I think I covered most of them, even some of the obscure ones. Obviously, there are going to be some I missed. There is one other propaganda rag I missed. Because later in the 80s, Marvel launched a more well-known propaganda rag called Marvel Age. Remember that? It was 25 cents. As some of us like to call it, Marvel Garbage. Who bought Marvel Age? I didn't buy it much, to be honest with you. I sold it. Captain Hipster Spock. Yes, we talked about Amazing Heroes and Comics Interview. I loved both of those, yes. Like I say, I can't remember ever missing an issue of Amazing Heroes. I'm going to go back and look at my, when I'm able to dig them out soon and see if I still have all of them. 204 issues or something like that with some specials. They used to come out with special preview issues. They had swimsuits. I don't know if I ever missed any or not. And I know I bought it every month, but maybe I could have. Yeah, Micronauts. Yeah, that's right, D-Bud. Marvel Age was a big ad. I remember they used to send it. We'd get these, but end up having to give them away or whatnot after a while. But I did not order heavy on Marvel Age. But then people did kind of start asking for it a little bit. So like, all right. Dad, man, let's see here. Definitely, it's having. figure out what I was really trying to say. Hey, you talking about like typos and different things like that, man? You can't type worse than me, man. So yeah, dude, don't never worry about that. Oh my goodness, never worry about that, buddy. Yeah, you're good, man. Yeah, Marvel garbage. I didn't talk about comic shop news. Let's be fair. Well, there was also DC Direct Currents. That was free. And that was in the back of the comic, but later they had like a little giveaway thingy. Remember these, folks? I used to get tons of these and gave them out free in the comic shop. Who remembers that? Sort of not really a magazine, but this was a freebie. It was a little thin little freebie. You know, it's better. At least DC had the decency to just give this away. It's better than it's better than was it whatchamacallit? Was it a Marvel garbage? So, and then of course, I guess last but probably not least, how about comic shop news? Did someone just tell me that they still put out comic shop news? It's a freebie. Little newspaper. Well, let's see. I don't know if they have any. Yeah, see, there you go. I probably still have tons of these laying around somewhere. So they're still doing it? Let's see. Oh well. Oh well. Yeah. So anyway, I guess it's comic shop. Are they still making that though? Wow. Can't imagine they're still making that thing. Yeah, I guess they are. Maybe they are. Who knows? Well, man, what are you gonna do? All right, everyone. Well, I tell you what. I've bored you enough. You've been so good. You've been such a wonderful. I mean, you don't deserve to be bored to death any more than you already are. But I love showing all these things. And again, this was not very in depth, and it was not meant to be. I just wanted to show, basically, talk a little about my experience with these mags and how I love them, and show some pictures of them and things like that, and see if anybody remembered them and stuff. Nothing, nothing special. But I love these magazines. I just, and I always keep mine. It brings me back to a better time in the industry when you couldn't wait to get the new Comics Journal or Amazing Heroes, or if you had, Captain Hector Spock was talking about how he liked Comics Interview. That was always so cool to get, because we're going to be interviewing your favorite comic artists or writers or what have you. So, and the only thing I have left since the industry is it's dead. It's dead. Is Tomorrow's. Tomorrow's puts out so many. Like I said, Jack Kirby Collector. Oh yeah, there is actually another one they put out. I guess I should show. They do put out Comic Book Creator. I get that sometimes. That's a pretty good mag. But I mean, just Tomorrow's books in general is just, and if you love reading about comics history, and few do, I guess, but I do. They have so many great books. They're just, and again, in addition to the magazines they make. So I love them. And it's just, at least I have that. At least I have the Jack Kirby Collector, their flagship mag, Alter Ego magazine, which I pick up a lot sporadically when they have something. I buy it every couple of months when there's something, an issue I really want. Back issue magazine, which I never miss. That Bronze Age, folks. And then some of their great books about comics history and different creators, and again, the history itself and stuff. And I also have a good magazine that I have a few issues. I don't got all of them yet, but I never got all of them yet. But when they go cheap, I kind of grab them. Retro Fan magazine. That's a really good one that they publish right now. No, you're too kind, Raquel, my wonderful first officer. So before we get out of here, again, a big thank you to my buddy T-Shirted Historian, who was kind enough to let me be on with him earlier when he was doing a show. He had a big panel, and he was talking to a gentleman, Glenn Baisley, I believe his name was, who was the cousin of the great Herb Trimpe. And so that was interesting. It was cool. I couldn't stay because I had to come do this, but it was very nice of him. So please, anyone, he has a brand new channel. And he's a nice guy. And hey, I think he talked to he's had Chuck Dixon on his show. It's a good guest. He's a top-notch fellow. So please, if you will go check out his channel. There's the link there. Oh, hey, Cardinal Sen, what's up, bro? Good to see you. There's a link, of course, not only to that, but there's a link in my description to many, many, many wonderful YouTubers, including my bud Cardinal Sin and my bud Captain Hipster Spock is here. There's a link in there. Also, again, everybody there. Retro Blasting, Mark D with a C. There's a link to his as well. So a lot of great links to a lot of great channels that I hope you guys all go check out. And while you're thinking of that, also, my wonderful first officer, the magnificent Raquel Briggs, is a writer. A writer of science fiction, as it happens. And if you would be so kind, please go check out her books. There's a link in the chat right there, and her writings. And I love you, Raquel. And she is fantastic, my wonderful first officer on Saturday Night Star Trek. So this week on Clobberin Time, and we'll get out of here, a little show note, and then I'll say some goodbyes. We'll get moving because I've kept you all here, and you're all just too kind to be here, and I appreciate every one of you. Wednesday night, I will, of course, be doing my usual. I'm not that back to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, and I'll just be doing my usual, geeking out. I don't think I have a topic planned. Sometimes I'll do topics, sometimes not. But I will geek around a little bit, and we'll talk about whatever's going on. Like today, this is my third stream today, by the way, my friends, because my great buddy Paulie with Latino Slant all of a sudden called me out of the blue this morning because news dropped about the casting of, or possible looks like casting of, the Submariner in the upcoming. He's going to apparently be introduced in the new Black Panther film. So we talked about that, and then I was on T-Shirt Show a little while ago before I went on this one. So this is my third stream. Tomorrow night I will be on. And Loki popped in earlier, so hey Loki, if you hear me, Loki's. He doesn't like me to call it Loki's comic book roundtable, but it's the comic book roundtable, and I like to call it that, Loki. Sorry, brother, but we love Loki. Love you, man. You're great pal. And so tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central, I'll be on that with Loki and the gang for the comic book roundtable. Wednesday night, I'll be here hanging out with you guys. Hopefully, just whoever shows up, come hang out a little bit, and I'll talk to you guys, and we'll talk about comics and geek out, whatever it is to do. I don't have to really have a plan for Wednesday night. Not much of a plan either for Thursday, 1 p.m. Central for the Global Geek Gang. So we'll kind of geek out there. But here's some things coming up in the future. Next Monday night on Monday Night Marks and Comics Talk, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. I promised myself I would do it, so I'm gonna do it. Was it? Oh, Mark D with the C. Do I have a special midnight stream coming up? Everyone else seems to be doing it. Should I do a midnight stream? I don't know. Midnight metal stream. Let me leave that to the R&Bs. I'll leave that to the pros there. Now, whoever wants to do it, it's fine. I'm not going to judge. No, I'm streamed out today probably, but you never know, Mark. Look, hey, Mark D with a C, you do that, man. I'll join you. We'll do it on your channel, whatever you want. So, anyway, the Global Geek Gang, we're going to just do normal stuff this week, but either this week or the next week or the next, I'm not sure. We're going to start our year-long, every now and sporadic celebrations of the 60th anniversary of my beloved Fantastic Four. Because Marvel Comics will not celebrate the wonderful Fantastic Four properly because they're garbage Marvel Comics. So I'm going to do it. We are going to do it. The Global Geek Gang is going to do it. Because we're going to do it right. That'll be in a couple of weeks. Next Monday night, like I was about to say earlier, though, the topic will be my top 25 all-time favorite comic book stories. I'm going to bite the bullet and do that finally. And then Saturday night, we do have a plan always on Saturday night. We are reviewing all of Star Trek. My magnificent first officer, the incomparable Commander Raquel Briggs, and myself. Our ongoing mission is to review all of real Star Trek, 66 through 05. We've reviewed the original series. This Saturday, we will conclude our review of the animated series, and after that, we will move on to the original crew films, then TNG and its films, DS9, Voy, and Ent. All real Trek. So we got a long way to go on that mission. 735, baby. That's right, because if you count it up, there are 735 times you sit down to watch an episode or film. And I'm glad Raquel came up with that math because I'm not good enough at math to do that myself. So, 7:35. That'll of course 9 p.m. Central. As always, Saturday night. And again, next Monday, top 25 comic book stories, and may God have mercy on my soul. So, I want to thank you all for being here tonight. Of course, my magnificent first officer, love you, Raquel. Thank you for being here so much. I appreciate you. The great Chris Persia was here. Brother, I always really appreciate you, bud. Canadian Spider-Man who does whatever a Canadian Spider-Man. Thank you, sir. The great Steve Mitchum, buddy. Always a pleasure, man. Really appreciate you. Mark D with a C, my fantastic friend, bro. Thanks, man. Thanks for being here. Snorta Poopas Cuber. Appreciate you, bud. As always, thank you. You're a good bear. Dadman Walking 55. Happy birthday, my friend. Captain Hipster Spock. Welcome. And it's not welcome. Oh, welcome also, but I mean, I'm supposed to be saying goodbye here. I'm saying welcome. So please forgive me for that faux pas, sir. Captain Hipster Spock. You are now officially off duty from Clobberin time, sir. But I hope you shall return again someday to continue in your stellar service in Starfleet Clobberin times. Yes, sir. And I know that was not Cockney at all. Sorry, I'm a damn silly Yank. You know that. Anyway, Bud Martin, brother. Appreciate you, man. I really do. Phantom Outsider. You the best, bud. Appreciate you. Who else was here tonight? Trying to remember who else was here. Canadian. Oh, Cardinal Sin was here. Canadian Spider-Man I also mentioned, but I'll mention him again. Love you, Cardinal Sin. Love you, Cardinal Sin also. I meant Canadian. Well, Cardinal Sin, love you, and I'm glad you're here, buddy. And, of course, Canadian Spider-Man. Appreciate you, man. Yes, I mentioned you a couple times because I can't remember everyone. Oh, Kel-L48. There you go. Well, thank you for that, Kel-L48. I appreciate you being here. Jobber was here earlier, the great Jobber. Miss you, bro. Always great to see you. I'm going to start drawing a blank on anyone who was here really earlier. Oh, J-Man was here, the great J-Man. Please go check out his channel. He's a great feller. Who else was here? Damn it. If I've forgotten you, it doesn't mean I've forgotten you. It just means I've forgotten you were here at that point. So anyone I forget, I'm so sorry. Oh, I think Loki popped in. Did Loki pop in? I think Loki might pop in. And also the beautiful Purple Valkyrie. Well, I'm sure it's so late over there. I love you, Purple. Purple and I shall get together to do a show soon, I hope. And by the way, speaking of Monday nights, in a couple of Mondays, we're going to start. The great script doctor and I will be reviewing Batman the Animated Series. That's also on the horizon. So I imagine Purple had to get out of here so late, but I love you, Purple. So, oh man, I hate that I forget people. I don't write it. I write it down on Saturday nights because there's so many people. But I'm doing when I'm running solo by myself. I just kind of don't do that. But Purple knows I love her. So, I appreciate everyone for being here. Well, I think that's about it. Number one, appreciate you. Thank you all. And I think I'm going to finally let you all go because you've been way too nice. Why torture you even more? Not the kind of guy I am. So big shout out as always to the great Stone Loki for my intros and outros, and for at least for my other, for this show and for Wednesday night. So, hail everyone, have a great night, and I will see you all very soon. Clobberin, friends, and Chris Pershing, you rock, buddy!